40 years ago, I burned my first lawn with a windy afternoon spray and a generic broadleaf killer. I've spent the 4 decades since making every other mistake you can make on a lawn and fixing them. So I sat down and pulled the 12 pieces of advice I'd give my younger self if I could go back to 1985 and start over. 12 lessons in order, from foundational to advanced. We'll start with the mowing mistake that costs you a third of your color, and we'll end at number 1, the single timing rule that, if you get it right, will outperform every fertilizer and herbicide you've ever bought. Most homeowners get it wrong by about 3 weeks. I'll show you exactly how to get it right. All right, let's walk through it together. 12 lessons, in order, distilled from 40 years, and somewhere north of 1,000 lawns I've put hands on. I've organized them the way I'd teach my younger self if I could sit him down at the kitchen table in 1985 and save him about 2 decades of trial and error. We start foundational, the mechanical stuff any homeowner can fix this weekend with the equipment already in the garage. Then we move into the diagnostic and seasonal practices, the stuff that separates a decent lawn from a great one. Then we finish with the timing rule at number 1, the one where most homeowners miss by about 3 weeks and lose the entire season because of it. Here's the thing. Every advanced lesson on this list depends on the foundational ones being right. If your mower is wrong, your fertilizer doesn't matter. So we start at the bottom and we build up. Number 12. Mowing too short. This is the mistake that costs you about a third of your color, and most homeowners are making it every single Saturday without realizing it. Here's the rule by species. Cool season grasses, Kentucky bluegrass, tall fescue, perennial rye. Those want to be cut at 3 to 3.5 inches. Warm season Bermuda goes lower, 1.5 to 2 inches. Zoysia, 1 to 2 inches. St. Augustine sits highest, 3.5 to 4 inches. And on top of those numbers, there is one rule that overrides everything. Never remove more than 1/3 of the blade length in a single mow. If your lawn is 4.5 inches tall, you cut it to 3, not to 1.5. Here's why. The leaf blade is where chlorophyll lives. Chlorophyll is the literal source of green color. Strip the blade, you strip the color, and you also expose the crowns to sun stress that shuts down photosynthesis for days. Scalp your lawn and you don't just lose height. You lose roughly a third of the color the lawn is capable of producing, and you'll see it within 72 hours. Get the height right, mow consistently, and the lawn does the rest. Of course, the height is only half the cut. The other half is the tool doing the cutting. Number 11. The dull mower blade. There is a real measurable difference between a sharp cut and a torn cut. A sharp blade slices the grass clean. A dull blade tears it, leaving a frayed white to tan tip that browns within 48 hours and gives the whole lawn a hazy, washed-out look from across the yard. Most homeowners sharpen the blade once a year, in the spring, and call it good. Wrong. My rule is 4 times per season. Once in early spring, once at the start of summer, once midsummer, once before the last big push in fall. You do not need a fancy sharpening service. A bench grinder works. A $10 mill file from the hardware store works just as well, takes about 15 minutes, and you do it on the workbench with the blade in a vise. After you sharpen, you balance, and I mean balance, on a nail driven into the wall of the garage. The blade should hang level. If it tips one way, file a little more off the heavy side. I run a Toro Time Master, 30-inch deck, and I've been through 3 of them over the years. The Time Master has 2 blades, and I sharpen both, 4 times a season, every season. Brown tips disappear. Color sharpens up within 2 mowings. But a clean cut on the wrong watering schedule still turns brown. So let's talk about water. Number 10. Watering wrong. This is the most common watering mistake on the planet, and I've seen it on probably 800 of those 1,000 lawns. Watering shallow and daily. 15 minutes every morning at 6 a.m. on the sprinkler timer. Wrong. The correct method is 1 inch of water per week, delivered in 1 or 2 deep sessions, not 7 shallow ones. Here's the math. 1 inch of water across 1,000 square feet is about 600 gallons. You want that water to soak down 6 inches into the soil profile, because that's where you want the roots living. Daily shallow watering trains the roots to stay in the top inch of soil, and when July hits and the surface bakes, those roots cook. Deep, infrequent watering forces the roots to chase the moisture down and builds a drought-tough root system that survives a Texas summer without breaking a sweat. Here's the test I use, and you can do it tonight. After you water, push a long screwdriver into the lawn. If it doesn't slide in easily 6 inches deep, the water didn't get to the root zone. Adjust your run time until the screwdriver goes in clean. That's it. Of course, the water you put down is only half the equation. What you do with the clippings is the other half. Number 9. Stop bagging the clippings. I want to be straight with you. I bagged for the first 10 years of my career because that's what the customer expected. Wrong. Mulched clippings return roughly 25% of the nitrogen the lawn needs annually. For free, every single week, no spreader required. 25%. That is free fertilizer falling out of the bottom of your mower, and most homeowners are paying to haul it away. Now, the myth, and this is the one I had to argue with customers about for 2 decades, is that clippings cause thatch. They don't. Thatch comes from undecomposed crown and stem tissue, not from leaf blades. Leaf blades are mostly water, and they break down in about a week. So here's what you do. If your mower has a mulching kit, install it. If it doesn't, you can buy a retrofit kit for most decks for about $30 to $50, and it pays for itself the first season in fertilizer you don't have to buy. A mulching mower chops the clippings small enough that they drop down to the soil surface and disappear in days. Free nitrogen. No thatch. No bagging. But before you spread any fertilizer at all, you have to know what the soil actually needs. Number 8. Skipping the soil test. Most homeowners fertilize blind. They walk into the hardware store, pick up a bag of 20-20-20 because the number looks balanced, and throw it down. Wrong. A $15 soil test from your state extension lab tells you pH, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and the micronutrient status, iron, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, the whole picture. Texas A&M AgriLife Extension runs an inexpensive mail-in program. Iowa State runs one too. Almost every state land-grant university has the same setup. Without that test, you are guessing. And I've seen homeowners pour pound after pound of nitrogen onto a lawn that was actually starving for iron, watching it stay pale yellow, and wondering why nothing was working. Here's the failure pattern. Pale, washed-out yellow across the whole lawn. That's almost always iron, especially in alkaline North Texas soil. A patchy, lime green to yellow-green pattern that comes back with feeding. That's nitrogen. 2 completely different deficiencies. 2 completely different products. The turf specialist at my local extension office walked me through this years ago, and it changed how I diagnosed every lawn after that. $15, 6 weeks turnaround. Do it once a year. But the soil test is meaningless if you don't know what kind of grass is sitting on top of that soil. Number 7. Not knowing your grass type. Cool season versus warm season changes literally every date on the calendar. Cool season grasses: Kentucky bluegrass, tall fescue, perennial rye. Those grow strongest in spring and fall and struggle in heat. They want fertilizer in September and October, and again in early spring. Warm season grasses: Bermuda, zoysia, St. Augustine. Those wake up when soil temperatures hit about 65 degrees, dominate the summer, and go dormant in winter. They want fertilizer in late spring through midsummer. Apply cool season timing to a warm season lawn and you're feeding dormant grass and waking up weeds. The trap is the transition zone: Dallas, Memphis, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, parts of Tennessee and Virginia. Homeowners in those cities plant the wrong species half the time because the nursery sold them what was on the truck that week. When my wife took a teaching job in North Texas in 1992 and we moved down from Iowa, I spent my entire first summer staring at Bermuda grass and wondering what it was. I'd grown up on Kentucky bluegrass, had to learn warm season turf from scratch. The lesson: identify your grass before you plant anything. Pull a small plug. Look at the blade shape, the growth habit, the seed head if it has one. Match the calendar to the species, not the other way around. But knowing your grass and your soil only matters if the product is going down at the right rate. Number 6. The uncalibrated spreader. Two types of spreaders, and you should own both. Broadcast, also called rotary. Spreaders throw product in a wide arc, and that's what you use for the bulk of the lawn. Drop spreaders release product straight down between two wheels, and that's what you use along driveways, sidewalks, and flower bed edges where you don't want product flying into places it shouldn't go. Now here's the part most homeowners miss. The setting printed on the back of the fertilizer bag is a starting point, not a final number. Every spreader doses differently. The way you calibrate is simple. Mark off a 1,000 square foot test strip in the driveway or the yard. Weigh the product in the hopper before. Walk the strip at your normal pace. Weigh what's left after. Now you know exactly how much product your spreader delivers per 1,000 square feet at that setting. Adjust until the math matches the label rate. Skip this and you either burn the lawn by over-applying, or you wonder why the fertilizer isn't working when you actually applied half the rate you thought. And one more thing, spend the extra $10. A $40 spreader will outlast a $20 spreader by 5+ years, and it stays calibrated. Same precision applies when you switch from the bag to the bottle. Number 5. Read the label. I say this in every spray video I've ever made, and I'm going to keep saying it until I retire the channel. 40 years ago, lawn number 1, my first paying customer in Texas, I grabbed a generic broadleaf killer off the shelf at the hardware store, didn't check the label, and walked out into the front yard on a windy afternoon. Sprayed the whole front. Within 48 hours, half the good grass was burned brown alongside the weeds. The neighbor across the street walked over, looked at the damage, and told me, dead serious, "Larry, you gotta spray more often." So I sprayed again, with a different product, didn't check that label either, and made it worse. That was my introduction to herbicides. Don't be me. The label tells you wind conditions, usually under 10 miles an hour. Temperature ranges. Most products lose effectiveness or volatilize and damage grass above 85 degrees. Target species, what weeds the product actually kills. And rate per 1,000 square feet, the only number that matters once your spreader is calibrated. A few years later, I bought 3 different pre-emergents one spring because I couldn't decide which one was best. Ended up applying 2 of them on top of each other and burned a patch in my own front yard. Read the label. Which brings me to number 4. Skipping core aeration. Most homeowners never aerate, and the ones who do it once and call it good. Here's the thing. Core aeration once a year pulls 2 to 3 inch plugs out of your lawn every few inches. And what it does is relieve compaction and open up pathways for water, oxygen, and nutrients to actually reach the root zone. Down here in North Texas, the native soil is heavy clay. That clay packs down hard under foot traffic and mower weight, and by midsummer the water you're putting down is running off instead of soaking in. I rent a core aerator from Home Depot once a year. Costs me about $70 for half a day. For cool season grasses, you aerate in the fall when the grass is actively growing and can heal the holes. For warm season Bermuda, zoysia, St. Augustine, you aerate in late spring or early summer. Same reason. Active growth means fast recovery. And if you pair aeration with overseeding the same afternoon, the seed drops directly into those holes, makes seed-to-soil contact, and your germination rate jumps. That's the multiplier. Most homeowners do neither. The ones who do both have lawns that look completely different by year 2, which sets up number 3. Skipping seasonal renewal. Lawns aren't static. They wear out, thin out, and need a yearly reset. For cool season lawns, that reset is overseeding in early fall. Soil is still warm enough for fast germination, air is cooling, and weed pressure is dropping. Seeding rate for tall fescue is 4 to 6 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Drop spreader, 2 directions, light rake in, water lightly twice a day for 2 weeks. For warm season Bermuda, the renewal is the opposite. You scalp it in early spring. Drop the mower deck to its lowest setting, take it down hard, and bag the dead material. What that does is expose the soil and the crowns to direct sunlight, and it accelerates spring green-up by 7 to 10 days. Same renewal principle, opposite season, opposite grass. And here's the thing. Both of these windows are temperature-driven, not calendar-driven, which is exactly the lesson that pays off at number 1. If you renew on the wrong week, you waste your seed and you waste your effort. Watch soil temperature, not the date on your phone. Which brings me to number 2. Spraying without PPE. Every time I spray, on camera and off, I wear the same setup. Nitrile gloves, ANSI safety goggles, half-face respirator with organic vapor cartridges. That's it. The respirator runs about $35 and lasts years. The cartridges are $15 a pair and they'll get you through a season of typical homeowner use. I'm not going to lecture you on safety. I'm going to tell you it's professional discipline. The pros I worked with for 30 years didn't put on PPE because the label said to. They put it on because they knew what these chemicals do to skin, eyes, and lungs over a 30-year career. You don't get to find out the slow way. Glove up, goggle up, mask up. Every time. And the last one, the single rule that if you get every other one of these right but miss this one, none of it matters. Before I get to it, I want to tell you about something. If what I'm showing you today is clicking, and you're starting to realize that everything you were told about weeds was backwards, that pulling them makes them worse, that spraying them is a cycle, not a fix, I wrote the full system down. It's called Larry's 30-Day Weed Kill Protocol. 88 pages. No fluff, just the plan. $17 at larrysgardenbooks.com. Chapter 8 is called Specific Weed Solutions, and it walks you through the targeted crabgrass protocol that picks up right where number 1 leaves off. If you're watching on your TV, grab your phone and point it at the QR code on screen. If you're on your phone or laptop, the link is in the description. Take your time pulling that up. I'll be right here. No rush. This is for folks who are exhausted by the cycle and want a permanent fix, not another tip. All right. Number 1. The single rule that, if you nail it, will outperform every fertilizer and every herbicide you've ever bought. Pre-emergent timing. And not calendar timing. Soil temperature timing. Here's the rule. You apply your pre-emergent. Prodiamine is the active ingredient I use. It's in most of the quality products. When soil temperature at a 2-inch depth hits a sustained 55 degrees. 55 is the germination threshold for crabgrass. Below it, the seed sleeps. At it, the seed wakes up. The forsythia bloom is the visual proxy in regions where forsythia grows. When the yellow flowers open, your soil is at 55. Down here in DFW, that window is typically late February through early March. Not April. April is what most product bags suggest by default, and April is 3 weeks too late. By April in Texas, the crabgrass has already germinated, and once it has, prodiamine does nothing. Pre-emergent doesn't kill plants. It prevents seeds from establishing. The chemical forms a barrier in the top half-inch of soil that stops the germinating seedling from forming roots. Once that seedling has roots, the barrier is irrelevant. I use a soil temperature probe. I've got Texas A&M AgriLife Extension data taped to the inside of my garage door for the historical averages, but the probe tells me the truth for this year. Every other lesson on this list is reactive. This one is preventive. This one is the difference between fighting weeds forever and not having them in the first place. Get this one date right and your lawn does the rest. Before I let you go, if today made you realize you've been fighting weeds the wrong way, the book covers the why behind that timing rule in detail. Chapter 2 is called The Weed Cycle. Understanding your enemy. It walks you through the seed bank biology, why your soil holds millions of dormant seeds, and why timing the pre-emergent is what shuts the whole cycle down. 88 pages, no fluff, just the protocol. It's the system I wish someone had handed me 20 years ago instead of a bottle of Roundup. $17 at larrysgardenbooks.com. If you're watching on the TV, aim your phone at the QR code now. If you're on a phone or laptop, the link is right in the description. Go ahead and tap it when you're ready. I'll give you a second. This one's for folks who've tried everything: pulling, spraying, tilling, and are done managing the symptoms. All right, here's the takeaway. 12 lessons, foundational to advanced, and the keystone is timing. Get your pre-emergent down when soil temperature at 2 inches holds at 55 degrees, and you've outflanked the whole season. Pick up a soil temperature probe this week. Watch for the forsythia bloom in your region, and mark your calendar for late February if you're anywhere near the transition zone. Next video, I'm going to walk you through calibrating a backpack sprayer the right way, because once you've got the timing and the label down, the sprayer is the last piece of the precision puzzle. Trust me on this one. Your neighbor's going to wonder what you're doing different. I'll see you in the next one.